'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature was stirring. So Nas decided to release a new album with Hit Boy called Magic. This is apparently it's being treated as an official album. It's not King's Disease 3. It's referenced on the album that King's Disease 3 is coming. This is to tide over until then. And it's interesting that Nas has now found this great collaborative relationship with Hit Boy, and good for him for being able to find a producer that kind of it takes a sort of back in a sense to the kind of rapper and producer relationships of the olden days, like the DJ Premier and Guru Gang Starr, who Nas references to on the album, DJ Polo and Cool G Rap, tandems like that. Maybe given the fact that we've just had two King's Disease albums pretty much back to back, and there's still the other one to be coming, this will make it like 4 albums in very quick succession produced by Hit Boy. And I do wonder how much this will be able to go on for. I mean, listening to this album, it's clear that Nas is still a good lyricist. Yeah, I mean, even perhaps more so on this project than on the King's Disease albums. There is it certainly feels to me quite a sense of really going in with the lyrics, and that may be more of a conscious decision, whereas the King's Disease albums are maybe more focused on particular subject matters, more focused on the content. These tracks seem to be more focused on the lyrics themselves, and for Hit Boy, the production seems to be more focused on being more stripped back and minimalist, with the King's Disease production seemed to be more kind of lavish. It would be like very trap influence with a soul sample going through, and then some more lush instrumentation as well. We don't get as much of that on these albums. These albums are, again, very kind of straightforward in terms that these songs are very straightforward in terms of the production. Very stripped back. There's a few samples and things in there. The rest of it is pretty much just like drums, a guitar, and that kind of thing. So, in terms of the actual tracks themselves, I'll show the album on there. Magic. That is the name of the album, not I don't think it's Magic. I was able to get it up onto my phone. I'm not that pretentious. Only 9 tracks, so it's a fairly simple project. The songs are all fairly quick as well. Most of them, I believe, in fact, we're going to something to go through from just having listened to it a couple of times. I mean, most of them, if not all of them, are just 2 verses. And as I say, it's kind of very stripped back, and just allowing Nas's lyricism to just go forward. So just go, as I refer to the track list and remember the actual tracks. So we begin with the intro, Speechless, which, again, quite a bare track, kind of haunting, almost a West Coast-y feel, almost, with the with the instrumentation, but not quite like heavy G-funk, just a bit more of a kind of haunting, Dre-ish kind of feel to it. We then get the track Meet Joe Black, sort of a reference to the film of the same name, and we end with a reference to Nas's Hip Hop is Dead. Talking about Nas was the one who actually killed hip hop by saying that hip hop was dead at the time, which Nas recently referenced to, saying that the initial idea of hip hop is dead kind of got taken out of hand and was kind of misinterpreted somewhat in terms of who that message was being projected to. So that's interesting. You get Ugly following this, which kind of talks about a lot of the street life and how it affects the people who end up falling to it, including well-known people. There's references to Big L and Jam Master Jay being murdered. So quite dark content in through that track. 40 to 16 building, which just looks a little bit about how Nas has grown, where he is at this point, and just looking at the people who wouldn't want him to progress and move forward. Get Hollywood Gangster, which again just kind of talks about where he is and kind of gives a bit of a nod to the younger generation with the New York drill scene. We follow that with Woo for the Children, which is more of a soulful sound to it. On here, Nas references to things early on in his career and what changes could have happened if he'd have had Grammys earlier on in his career, if he'd have been on the remix to Biggie's "Give Me the Loot" like he was going to at some point. And just this is little tidbits and facts about early points in his career and just how things could be different. We follow this with Wave Gods, the only collaboration on the album in terms of other artists. Both ASAP Rocky and DJ Premier feature on this track, so the chorus has quite sort of standard scratchy DJ Premier sample chorus, taking bits from Raekwon, CL Smooth, Snoop Dogg, mixing them in the chorus together. It's cool to get that nice little throwback to those kind of old school choruses that DJ Premier in particular brought through. ASAP Rocky's verse is very good as well. He certainly really goes in with the multi-syllable rhyme schemes in his verse. It's, rhyming with Nas kind of makes sense. It's kind of the production is kind of a bit of a co-collaboration with Hit Boy and DJ Premier as well. It's not listed as that. That's just for DJ Premier scratching the chorus, but it's certainly, regardless of how much DJ Premier actually contributed to the production, that sort of feel is definitely throughout the track. We then get the track The Truth. Look at the modern generation and about just looking at the sort of fictitious nature of some of the modern age, and just a sort of lesson to the newer generation of not to lie about things. And we finish up with the track Dedicated, We then finish up with the track Dedicated, which appears to meet the criteria of a song which has two beats for it, so there's a part one and a part two. We certainly had a few instances of that on the King's Disease album, so I guess we have to have it on here as well. And it's fine because it's a nice little outro for Nas, kind of reflecting on his career, all the things that he's kind of done in his life to dedicate to the craft. So I mean, in terms of an overall album, it feels it feels more like a bunch of songs which were just recorded together, which is essentially what they are. I'm not sure if, I mean, some of them could have made a King's Disease project. I can certainly see on the ones that we've had so far that some of these types of tracks could have helped break them up a little bit, perhaps. Given that they kind of feel a bit more streets than some of the tracks on those projects. In terms of just a bunch of songs together, they're certainly well done. Nas still sounds good, even if a lot of the stuff isn't necessarily new. He still manages to find some ways to recover Old Terrain or to bring in newer things that weren't necessarily spoken about before. It's always interesting. And the Hit Boy production is well done. It certainly feels, in comparison to the other, I just feel that as an actual album, it feels a little bit strange. If it wasn't being, if it wasn't being, I mean, it's a surprise album, but it's being marketed as an album nonetheless. And if it wasn't being marketed as an album, then I could say it's just like a nice little EP to bide the time. It's certainly not like a lost tapes kind of project, because these tracks weren't going to, as far as I'm aware, they weren't going to be part of an album at any point. Again, it was just a case of just being together in the studio, just recording stuff together, which is fine. But Nas is now racking up the discography quite considerably, and I'm not sure if just throwing out little projects like this is necessarily helpful to the overall discography. We seem to be in a situation where there's these past few years are going to be I've had several releases in them, whereas the past the prior kind of like decade and a bit, the releases were kind of more every few years or so. So the fact that we're now getting all these albums together, it'll be interesting to see how this overall affects the discography. In terms of this project's placement, I'd probably have to say it's somewhere around the King's Disease projects, perhaps lower than, or certainly in between 1 and 2. They are all kind of fairly consistent with each other, so placing any of them above one another feels it's a bit. Nas has spoken before about releasing projects with a particular producer, Dr. Dre, DJ Premier, Swiss Beats, Kanye, RZA. I mean, we've got a Kanye one. So rumors of specific producers producing entire albums for Nas. Now that we get all these albums just produced by Hit Boy, if we do get any of these other solo producer albums just coming out, um, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see one if any of those do happen, because at this rate it doesn't seem that likely. It seems that Nas is quite set on the Hit Boy working relationship, which again has been pretty good so far. So there's no reason why they shouldn't continue working together. And it's nice that in this stage of his career that he's decided to entrust his production largely to just one person. Um, but yeah, as a overall, I mean, this might be a bit of a grower. It's certainly a fine project. I'd be interested to see what effects this has on King's Disease 3 when that does happen. And I think there could have been a bit more of a break between the projects, considering we already knew that King's Disease 3 was likely to be happening. So the idea of having this tied over between those albums seems a little. This could have just been a mixtape or something. Um, but it is what it is. It'd be interesting to see how well it does without any sort of prior announcement, just being sort of surprise released. Um, yeah, that's kind of all I have to. A bit rambling, I know. I'm a bit tired now, but yeah, that's kind of what I have to say about it. And yeah, that's Nas Magic. I guess I'll see you for King's Disease 3, because that will probably happen some point next year. So, we'll see you then.